There are corners of this planet where reality seems to have been edited, where the ground beneath your feet simply stops making sense. Beyond the neon hum of our modern world lies a vast, breathing tapestry of stone and sky that has remained frozen for thousands of years. It is a realm where the earth itself seems to have forgotten its own rules, carving out landscapes that look more like cinematic hallucinations than mere geography. Within these silent valleys, you will find a peace so deep it echoes, and a mystery so thick you can almost touch it. This is not the world you were told existed. It is the unseen, the impossible, and the ancient. It is time to step beyond the veil. Your journey into the unknown begins now. Zhangye Danxia, the technicolor scar, deep in the remote reaches of the Gansu province. There exists a geographic anomaly that defies the standard laws of perspective and color. It is a place known as Zhangye Danxia. But to the naked eye, it feels more like a corrupted video game file, where the textures of the world have bled into one another in a digital glitch. This is not a landscape of familiar green forests or gray granite peaks, but a jagged sea of scarlet, gold, and indigo that stretches toward a horizon that feels entirely alien. The origin of this surreal vista dates back 24 million years, and a time frame so vast it is nearly impossible for the human mind to fully grasp. During this immense epoch, unimaginable tectonic pressure began a slow and violent dance, squeezing layers of red sandstone and mineral deposits into the undulating drapes we see today. This geological theater spans over 300 square miles of painted earth, a scale that forces you to realize just how massive our planet truly is when it decides to show off its creative power. To experience this place is to step out of the modern world and into a silent, high-definition dreamscape. You find yourself standing on a high, wind-swept ridge where the ground beneath your boots looks like a liquid sunset that was suddenly frozen in midair by some ancient, celestial force. There is a specific, haunting quality to the atmosphere here, as the mountain wind carries a fine, gritty dust that coats your lips and tastes faintly of iron. It is a heavy, metallic sensation that anchors you to the ancient reality of the stone, while your eyes tell you that you are floating in a painting. As you watch the shadows of passing clouds move across the vibrant ridges, a sense of profound peace settles over you, mixed with the realization that this is a 20-million-year masterpiece that began long before our ancestors even walked upright. We are nothing more than fleeting observers, temporary guests caught in a single, silent frame of a cinematic epic that will continue for eons after we are gone. This provides a deep layer of perspective, a reminder that the Earth is a living, breathing canvas that does not require our permission or our presence to be beautiful. It is a place for the soul to wander and for the intellect to wonder at the slow, patient movements of the crust beneath us. However, there is a darker, more haunting side to this technicolor dream that few people ever mention. Underneath those intoxicating drapes of color, this is a brutal and barren wasteland where almost nothing can survive, a place where the soil is far too mineral-rich and hostile for the green of life to ever take root. Even more unsettling is the scientific reality of the pigments themselves. As the vibrant red paint that draws thousands of travelers from across the globe is actually the Earth rusting in real time, a slow and beautiful chemical decay that serves as a mask for a landscape where time itself seems to be eating the mountains from the inside out. Fanjingshan, the Spire of Solitude. Hidden deep within the jagged, emerald-green wilderness of Guizhou province, there stands a spire so improbable, it seems to have been plucked from the fever dream of an ancient poet. This is Fanjingshan, a lone pillar of rock that rises from the earth, like a silent sentinel guarding a secret that the rest of civilization has long forgotten. What makes this place truly stand out is not just its sheer verticality, but the two isolated temples that sit perched on its twin peaks, separated by a deep, narrow chasm that looks as if it were sliced by a celestial blade. These sacred structures were painstakingly erected over 500 years ago during the height of the Ming Dynasty, an era when architects and monks sought the most inaccessible corners of the world to build their sanctuaries. Reaching a dizzying height of 8,200 feet above the sea, the Spire of Solitude exists in a realm where the oxygen is thin, and the silence is so heavy it feels physical. It is a place that rejects the standard laws of architecture, demanding that anyone who wishes to visit must first prove their devotion through a grueling physical trial. To experience Fanjingshan is to engage in a vertical pilgrimage that demands every ounce of your physical and mental resolve. As you begin the trek, the humid, heavy air of the forest floor gives way to a colder, sharper breeze that carries the scent of ancient moss and wet stone. Your heart begins to hammer against your ribs with a rhythmic intensity as you find yourself clinging to stairs that are little more than shallow grooves carved into the vertical face of the cliff. Each step upward is a victory over gravity. And with every foot gained, the world below shrinks until the modern world of cities and noise becomes nothing more than a hazy, forgotten memory. When you finally reach the very top, you are greeted by a sight that defies logic. You are standing above a shifting, endless sea of white clouds. Looking across a bridge that joins two tiny temples hovering in the void, the wind whistles through the stone arches, and for a moment, you feel as though you have stepped out of time itself. In this thin, cold air, you understand that this is more than just a building project. It is the ultimate manifestation of the impossible. It serves as a profound testament to the human spirit and the desperate lengths we will go to in order to find a quiet place for reflection and prayer, away from the chaos of existence. Here, suspended between the two peaks, you are caught in a state of pure, suspended peace, far removed from the distractions of the 21st century. However, as you gaze out into the infinite white horizon, the mystery of the place begins to take on a darker and more haunting edge. You are forced to confront the reality that at this treacherous height, one wrong step is not just a simple fall, but a complete and total disappearance into a thick, swirling mist from which there is no return. And as you run your hands along the weathered masonry of the temple walls, you find yourself wondering how a pre-industrial society managed to haul tons of heavy stone slabs and timber up this vertical pillar without the aid of a single modern machine. Mount Huashan, the death-defying path. Deep within the rugged heart of the Shaanxi province, there is a mountain that does not just challenge your physical strength, but also actively interrogates your will to survive. This is Mount Huashan, a jagged wall of granite that has served as a sacred sanctuary for Taoist monks for more than 2,000 years. Unlike the manicured trails of the West, Huashan offers what is widely considered the most terrifying hiking experience on the face of the planet. It is a place where the verticality is so extreme that the landscape feels as though it is trying to push you off its edges. The mountain itself is a massive block of Mesozoic granite, rising abruptly from the earth with a sheer 7,000-foot vertical drop that makes the surrounding valleys look like distant, blurry memories. For centuries, pilgrims have ventured here not for the view, but to reach the remote temples perched on its 5 distinct peaks, believing that the more perilous the journey, the closer one moves toward spiritual enlightenment. To experience the legendary plank walk of Huashan is to enter a state of hyper-focused survival where the rest of the world simply ceases to exist. You find yourself white-knuckling a cold, rusty iron chain that is the only thing standing between you and a plunge into the abyss. Beneath your boots lies a narrow, 12-inch wide wooden plank, weathered by decades of storms and bolted directly into the sheer granite face. There is no rail, no safety net, and no room for error. The mountain wind howls through the chasms, trying to peel you off the rock like a scab, and you can feel the vibration of the chains through your palms. Every breath you take in this thin, crisp air feels like a hard-won victory. Your vision narrows until the only thing in the universe is the next rusted bolt and the next inch of wood. In this extreme environment, fear stops being a mere emotion and transforms into a heavy, physical weight that settles in the pit of your stomach, forcing you to move with a deliberate precision you never knew you possessed. This harrowing climb is a profound physical negotiation with your own mortality, stripping away the trivialities of modern life until only the raw essence of existence remains. It is a place where you are forced to look directly into the eyes of the void and decide that you are not ready to let go. This peak offers a unique kind of peace that can only be found at the edge of destruction, a clarity that comes when the stakes of every step are absolute. However, there is a chilling irony to this sacred ascent that lingers long after you have descended. While thousands of modern travelers venture onto these planks every single year in a desperate search for good luck or spiritual favor, the mountain itself remains entirely indifferent to human fortune or the prayers whispered into the wind. And it is almost impossible to comprehend that for nearly 2,000 years, before the invention of steel cables and safety harnesses, monks and pilgrims climbed these same vertical chimneys, wearing nothing but thin straw sandals and relying on nothing but pure, terrifying faith. Tianmen Mountain, the Heaven's Gate, located in the misty, limestone wilderness of Zhangye. There is a geographic anomaly so grand that it feels as though the earth itself was torn open to reveal a glimpse of another dimension. This is Tianmen Mountain, home to a literal hole in the sky that locals have revered as a portal to the divine for nearly 2 millennia. The history of this massive natural arch dates back to the year 263 AD, when a catastrophic cave-in at the back of a mountain peak created a towering, 80-foot-wide opening that looks as if it were blasted through the stone by a celestial force. To reach this legendary gateway to heaven, one must ascend a staircase of 999 stone steps, a number chosen specifically because it represents eternity in ancient culture. These steps rise at a grueling 45-degree angle, stretching upward toward a void of light that seems to hover between the clouds and the earth, creating an architectural masterpiece that was designed not by man, but by the relentless forces of erosion and time. Standing at the base of the great staircase, you are confronted with a scale that feels entirely alien to the human eye. As you begin the long, rhythmic climb, the air around you begins to change, growing cooler and more saturated with the moisture of the low-hanging clouds. When you finally reach the summit and stand beneath the massive natural stone arch, the sheer magnitude of the opening is overwhelming, as it is so vast that highly skilled fighter jets have actually flown through the gap during international aerial displays. The fog rolls through the massive hole in slow, heavy waves, making it feel as though the mountain itself is exhaling a cold, ancient breath upon you. There is a profound sense of stillness here, a quiet power that hums within the limestone walls and vibrates through the soles of your shoes. You feel small, not in a way that is diminishing, but in a way that is liberating, as the massive gateway frames the world below into a single, breathtaking miniature of reality. This location serves as the ultimate threshold between the mundane world we inhabit and a realm that feels undeniably sacred. It is a place where nature has carved a monument to its own power, inviting you to leave the noise of the valley behind and step into a space of pure, contemplative awe. The journey to the top is as much a mental transition as it is a physical one, stripping away the clutter of daily life until you are left standing in the presence of something truly epic. Yet, beneath the beauty of the gate, there are layers of mystery that add a haunting tension to the experience. The only way to even reach the foot of the staircase is to survive a road containing 99 hairpin turns. A serpentine path carved into the cliffside that was specifically designed to break your nerves and test your resolve before you are even allowed to see the portal. And many of the locals who live in the shadows of these peaks still believe to this day that the mountain is a sentient, living entity that actively guards the gateway to the other side, deciding who is worthy to pass through the mist and who must remain in the world below. Erhai Lake, the mirror of the Bai, nestled within the high-altitude plateaus of Dali in the Yunnan province. There exists a body of water that seems to hold the very sky within its depths. This is Erhai Lake, an alpine wonder shaped remarkably like a human ear, acting as a giant acoustic chamber for the whispers of the surrounding mountains. For over a millennium, this lake has been the lifeblood and the spiritual heart of the Bai people, an ethnic community that has built its identity around the ebb and flow of these crystal-clear waters. Spanning across 97 square miles of what can only be described as liquid silk, the lake is a sanctuary of clarity in a world that is often blurred by haste and noise. The history of this region is etched into the white-walled architecture of the lakeside villages, where generations of families have looked out over the water to find both sustenance and inspiration, creating a cultural landscape that feels as deep and enduring as the lake itself. To experience Erhai is to participate in a slow-motion symphony of nature and human presence. Imagine yourself cycling along a narrow, winding path that hugs the western shore, where the water is so impossibly still that the line between the lake and the Kangshan Mountains becomes invisible. As you move, the air around you changes, carrying the sharp, refreshing scent of ancient pine trees mixed with a faint, unexpected hint of salt that seems to rise from the depths. The sunlight hits the surface in a way that turns the water into a shimmering field of diamonds, and the only sound you hear is the soft hum of your tires on the pavement and the distant, rhythmic splashing of a fisherman's oar. It is a sensory experience that grounds you, pulling your focus away from the digital world and forcing you to engage with the immediate beauty of the present moment. Here, the pace of life is dictated not by clocks, but by the movement of the sun across the alpine sky. In the grand context of a nation home to 1.4 billion people, Erhai Lake represents the deep breath that China takes when it finally goes silent. It is a place where the frenetic energy of the modern world dissolves into the stillness of the water, offering a rare space for the mind to wander without direction. This lake is not just a destination, it is a psychological reset, a reminder that peace is not merely the absence of noise, but a tangible presence that can be found in the reflection of a mountain. It serves as a sanctuary for the weary, a place where the soul can finally catch up with the body. However, as you gaze into the calm, turquoise expanse, you should know that the lake's serene surface hides the ruins of ancient villages that were swallowed whole by rising waters centuries ago. And at night, the reflection of the stars is so unnervingly perfect that it can cause a sudden sense of vertigo, making you feel as though you are no longer standing on Earth, but floating helplessly in the dead center of deep space. Mount Wutai, the frozen temple, high within the remote, windswept reaches of the Shanxi province. There is a mountain sanctuary that exists in a state of perpetual, icy defiance. This is Mount Wutai, a high-altitude Buddhist stronghold that remains frozen and shrouded in mist, even while the rest of China burns under the intense heat of the summer sun. Since the 1st century, this site has been dedicated to the Bodhisattva of wisdom, making it one of the oldest and most significant spiritual centers in all of Asia. The geography of the mountain is as unique as its climate, consisting of 5 massive, flat-topped peaks that rise over 10,000 feet into the sky like natural altars. Over the centuries, these peaks have been adorned with over 50 temples and monasteries, creating a sprawling labyrinth of wood and stone that has survived dynasties, revolution, and the relentless passage of time. It is a place where the atmosphere is heavy with the weight of 2,000 years of continuous prayer, making it feel less like a mountain and more like a living, breathing archive of human devotion. The experience of Mount Wutai is one of profound, vibratory intensity that begins the moment you step into its thin, crisp air. At this altitude, the atmosphere is so sparse that it seems to vibrate against your skin, and every sound carries a clarity that is both beautiful and unsettling. As you walk through the ancient corridors of the central monasteries, you are enveloped by the low, guttural hum of monks chanting their morning sutras. A sound so resonant and deep that it feels as though it is rising directly from the frozen ground beneath your feet. The scent of sandalwood incense hangs thick in the air, clashing with the cold. Metallic smell of the mountain wind. You find yourself moving with a deliberate slowness, your breath coming in short, sharp bursts as you navigate the steep stone paths that connect the 5 peaks. It is an immersive journey into a world of total sensory focus, where the physical hardship of the climb is constantly balanced by the overwhelming sense of peace that permeates every inch of the valley. This mountain range is far more than a hiking destination. It is a brain space, a landscape specifically designed by nature and history for the purpose of thinking rather than just climbing. Wutai offers a rare opportunity to disconnect from the frantic pulse of global society and engage with a tradition that prizes wisdom over speed and silence over noise. It is a place where the architecture and the environment conspire to turn your gaze inward, forcing a level of self-reflection that is nearly impossible to find in our modern lives. It is a sanctuary for the intellect as much as the spirit, standing as a cold, majestic monument to the power of the focused mind. Yet, even in this realm of higher wisdom, the environment remains brutally unforgiving. In the depths of winter, the temperature drops to such extreme lows that the incense sticks lit by pilgrims often freeze solid before they can even burn halfway down. And it remains one of the only places on the planet where the often conflicting traditions of Tibetan and Han Buddhism exist together in a cold, seal, and unbreakable embrace. Sichuan Mountain, the Four Sisters. Deep in the rugged, untamed wilderness of the Sichuan province, 4 jagged peaks of ice and granite tear through the blue silk of the sky like the teeth of an ancient predator. This is Sichuan Mountain, often referred to as the Alps of the East, a place where the landscape is so grand, it feels as though it belongs to a pre-human era. The name translates to the Four Sisters, a title born from a local legend of 4 beautiful women who turned themselves into stone to protect their land from a marauding demon. Each peak represents a sister, with the youngest and highest sister standing as a silent, snow-capped guardian over a hidden world of verdant valleys and crystal streams. The highest peak reaches a staggering elevation of 2,505 feet, a height that places it firmly in the realm of the eternal winter. Below these lethal summits lies the Changping Valley, a long and pristine expanse that serves as a stark, beautiful contrast to the violent geography that looms overhead. Walking through the heart of the Four Sisters is an experience of total, pristine loneliness that makes you feel like the last person left on the planet. The journey begins in a valley carpeted with wild, vibrant flowers that sway in the gentle mountain breeze. But as you look up, the scenery shifts into something far more intimidating. You are flanked by massive, snow-white teeth of rock that seem to pierce the very fabric of the atmosphere. Their jagged edges softened only by the shifting curtains of mist. The silence here is massive, broken only by the distant, thunderous crack of an ice shelf, shifting or the high-pitched whistle of the wind through the pines. It is a landscape that feels both welcoming and profoundly indifferent to your presence. A place where nature is still the undisputed master of the domain. Every step through the valley offers a new perspective on the scale of the sisters, reminding you with every passing mile that you are moving through a masterpiece of natural engineering that has remained unchanged for millions of years. Tianmen Mountain represents the concept of inaccessible beauty, serving as a powerful reminder that some corners of our world were not meant to be conquered, but only witnessed from a distance with a sense of reverent awe. It is a place that humbles the ego and expands the imagination, offering a glimpse into a world where the wild still reigns supreme. In an era where every mountain has been mapped and every valley has been explored, the Four Sisters remain a sanctuary for the unknown and the untouchable. This location is a testament to the endurance of myth and the sheer, unyielding power of the natural world. However, you must never forget that behind the legendary beauty of the Four Sisters lies a lethal reality. The youngest sister peak is considered so treacherous and technically difficult that only a handful of the world's most elite professional climbers have ever successfully touched her summit, and the local weather is notoriously temperamental, capable of shifting from a peaceful summer meadow to a blinding, lethal blizzard in less than 10 minutes. The Great Wall Jiangkou section, the Wild Dragon, high above the northern outskirts of Beijing, winding through the jagged, unforgiving ridges of the mountains, lies a version of the Great Wall that most tourists will never see. This is the Jiangkou section, often called the Wild Dragon because of its crumbling, untamed state and the way it seems to coil around the precipitous peaks like a prehistoric beast. Unlike the restored, postcard-ready sections near the city, Jiangkou is a raw and brutal ruin that has been slowly reclaimed by the very nature it once sought to dominate. Its history dates back to the 13th century, during the Ming Dynasty, when it was constructed as a desperate defensive line to halt the relentless advance of the Mongol hordes from the north. The scale of the structure is staggering, stretching across thousands of miles of wilderness. But here at Jiangkou, the design reaches a point of near insanity, with some sections rising at almost vertical angles along ridges that are thinner than a knife's edge. This is not a place for casual sightseeing. It is a crumbling fossil of an empire's ambition, left to decay in the wind and rain. experience Jiangku is to realize that you are no longer walking on a path, but scrambling over a dying monument. You find yourself using your hands as much as your feet, gripping loose ancient bricks and the twisted roots of trees that have grown directly through the masonry. Every step is a gamble, as the stones beneath your boots are often untethered, threatening to slide into the abyss below. As you climb higher, the modern world disappears completely, replaced by a haunting silence that is broken only by the sound of your own heavy breathing and the rustle of the forest. You are standing on a wall that was once the most sophisticated military barrier on the planet, yet now it feels incredibly fragile. A thin ribbon of human will draped over a landscape that is slowly swallowing it whole. The air is sharp and smells of damp earth and old stone, and from the highest watchtowers, you can see the wall stretching into the horizon like a jagged, broken spine. This section of the wall serves as a profound meditation on the nature of security and the inevitability of time. It is the architectural fossil of an empire's paranoia, a massive investment in stone and blood built to keep the rest of the world out. Yet now it is being eaten by the very world it tried to exclude. It reminds us that no matter how great the wall or how powerful the empire, nature eventually wins every war. It is a place where you can feel the weight of history and the futility of human pride in the face of the eternal mountains. However, beneath the romantic ruin, there is a lethal reality that you must respect. This specific section of the wall is technically closed to the public because the structure is so unstable that it kills people every single year. And it is a chilling historical fact that more people died during the brutal conditions of building this wall than in almost any of the bloody battles ever fought upon its ramparts. Huashan, the Sea of Clouds. In the heart of Anhui Province, there is a granite dreamscape that feels as though it was lifted directly from the silk scrolls of an ancient master. This is Huashan, or the Yellow Mountain, a place of such ethereal beauty that it has inspired every significant Chinese ink painting for over 1,000 years. The origins of this landscape are truly epic, having been formed over 100 million years ago when an ancient sea retreated, leaving behind jagged peaks that were further sculpted by the relentless movement of glaciers. The mountain is defined by 72 distinct peaks that thrust upward like frozen waves, many of them topped with twisted, gravity-defying pine trees that seem to grow out of the very air itself. This is a location where the line between myth and reality becomes dangerously thin, creating an atmosphere that has drawn poets, monks, and explorers for centuries in search of a glimpse of the divine hidden within the stone. The experience of Huashan is defined by a phenomenon known as the Sea of Clouds, a sight that requires you to be awake and standing on a precipice by 4 o'clock in the morning. As the first light of dawn begins to bleed over the horizon, you find yourself looking down upon a vast, shifting ocean of white mist that swallows the world below, leaving only the highest mountaintops poking through like lonely islands in a celestial sea. The silence at this hour is heavy and almost liquid, pressing against your ears and forcing you into a state of deep, meditative stillness. As the sun rises, the light catches the granite faces of the peaks, turning them into pillars of gold, while the twisted pines cast long, dramatic shadows across the white expanse. It is an overwhelming sensory experience that makes you realize the ancient painters were not exaggerating their work. The world actually looks like this, if only you are willing to climb high enough to see it. Huashan represents the perfect intersection of the physical world and the human imagination. It is a sanctuary for the aesthetic soul, a place where nature has crafted a gallery of such perfection that it feels intentional. Here, you understand that beauty is not just a luxury, but a fundamental force of the planet, capable of surviving for eons in the harshest of environments. It is a place that offers a rare kind of peace, a feeling of being elevated above the petty concerns of the earth and into a realm of pure, unadulterated awe. However, the mountain guards its secrets with a strange, almost supernatural intensity. Some of the iconic pines you see clinging to the cliffs are over 1,000 years old and have spent their entire existence growing directly out of solid granite without a single handful of soil to nourish them. And when the mist and light hit the peaks at a perfect angle, you might witness the Buddha's light, a rare and haunting optical phenomenon where your own shadow is projected onto the clouds below, surrounded by a glowing, multicolored rainbow halo. Zhangye Valley, the fairyland of mirrors. Deep within the high-altitude wilderness of the Sichuan province lies a valley that seems to operate on a different color spectrum than the rest of the planet. This is Zhangye, a fairyland of mirrors that is home to a series of multicolored jewel lakes that look like they are filled with liquid neon. The history of this breathtaking landscape is a story of slow, glacial movement and the patient accumulation of limestone deposits over millions of years, covering a vast 180,000-acre biosphere. This UNESCO-protected site is a labyrinth of terraced waterfalls and pools that shift in hue from a deep, electric turquoise to a piercing emerald green. The water is so clear and saturated with minerals that it reflects the surrounding forests and peaks with a precision that makes it impossible to tell where the shore ends and the water begins. It is a place of such staggering purity that it feels like a remnant of a prehistoric era, a sanctuary that has somehow escaped the reach of modern industry. To walk through Zhangye is to immerse yourself in a world of total visual clarity. You find yourself standing on the edge of a lake where the water is so transparent that fallen trees lying at the bottom, some of them hundreds of years old, look as though they are floating in mid-air rather than resting under 20 feet of water. As the sun moves across the sky, the colors of the lakes shift and pulse, reacting to the changing light in a way that feels organic and alive. The air is cool and tastes of crushed pine and mountain water, and the sound of 100 different waterfalls creates a constant, soothing white noise that drowns out the rest of the world. It is a deeply relaxing experience, a sensory journey that washes away the stress of the city and replaces it with a profound sense of wonder. You feel as though you are moving through a living masterpiece, where every frame is a perfect composition of light, color, and reflection. Zhangye serves as a sanctuary of purity in a world that is increasingly defined by pollution and noise. It is a living example of what the Earth looked like before the arrival of human civilization. A place where the elements exist in a state of perfect, fragile balance. It reminds us that there are still corners of our planet that are genuinely sacred, and that the protection of such beauty is a vital responsibility for our species. This valley offers a glimpse of a world that is both ancient and eternally young, a place where the water acts as a mirror for the soul. However, this fairyland holds truths that are as sharp as its reflections. The water in these vibrant jewel lakes is so heavily saturated with minerals that it is essentially toxic to drink, meaning that while it sustains the eyes, it cannot sustain the body. And after a massive earthquake in the year 2017, nearly drained the most famous lake in the valley, nature managed to repair the damage in a way that scientists still do not fully understand. Enshi Grand Canyon, the floating walkway, deep within the secluded, mist-shrouded mountains of the Hubei province. There is a geological scar so deep and so ancient that it feels like a gateway into the core of the planet itself. This is the Enshi Grand Canyon, a massive limestone labyrinth carved over millions of years by the relentless power of the Qinjiang River. While the world celebrates the canyons of the American West, Enshi offers a different kind of intensity, defined by lush vertical jungles and rock formations that seem to defy the very laws of gravity. The most iconic of these is the one-pillar incense, a solitary limestone column that stands 150 meters tall but is only 4 meters wide at its narrowest point. This slender needle of stone rises from the canyon floor like a relic from another world, standing perfectly upright despite its impossible proportions. The canyon itself stretches for 67 miles, a vast and winding gallery of karst peaks and hidden caverns that has remained largely unseen by the outside world for centuries. To experience Enshi is to engage in a vertical dance with the void. The most visceral way to navigate this landscape is via the floating walkway, a narrow path bolted directly into the sheer face of a 1,000-foot cliff. As you step onto the glass-bottomed sections of the path, the ground beneath your feet effectively disappears, leaving you suspended in midair above a dizzying drop. Looking down, the massive Qingjiang River appears as nothing more than a tiny, silver thread winding through the shadows of the canyon floor far below. The air here is cool and heavy with the scent of damp moss and limestone, and as the clouds drift through the canyon, they often wrap around the walkway, making you feel as though you are walking on the sky itself. It is a sensory experience that demands total presence, where every footfall reminds you of the immense scale of the earth and the fragile position we occupy within it. This canyon is more than a natural wonder. It is a profound study in structural fragility and the quiet power of endurance. The one-pillar incense stands as a silent teacher, reminding us that even the thinnest and most delicate things can survive the test of time if they are rooted in something deeper. It is a place that forces you to confront the beauty of things that shouldn't exist, yet do, challenging your understanding of what is stable and what is permanent. Here, the sheer walls of the canyon act as a sanctuary for a type of peace that can only be found in the most remote corners of the wilderness. However, the canyon hides mysteries that are both scientific and supernatural. This delicate one pillar has miraculously survived major earthquakes that leveled entire nearby cities, standing unmoved while the world around it shook to pieces. And during periods of heavy rain, the unique thermal currents within the canyon create rare cloud waterfalls that appear to flow upward from the depths toward the sky in a total reversal of natural law. Panjin Red Beach, the Crimson Tide. In the coastal reaches of the Liaoning province, there exists a landscape so surreal and vibrant that it looks as though a sea of blood has washed over the earth and stayed there. This is the Panjin Red Beach, a massive wetland that turns a deep, intoxicating crimson every autumn, creating a vista that feels like a scene from a dream or a distant, alien planet. This phenomenon is not caused by sand or mineral deposits, but by a unique species of seaweed known as sueda, which thrives in the highly saline alkali soil of the river delta. While most plants would wither and die in such a harsh environment, the sueda has adapted, using the salt to fuel its growth and its dramatic color transformation. As the world's largest wetland and reed marsh, the scale of this crimson tide is staggering, covering miles of the horizon in a uniform, pulsing red that shifts in shade as the sun moves across the sky. It is a place where the boundary between the land and the sea is blurred by a carpet of living color. To experience Panjin is to walk out into the heart of a vibrant, breathing ecosystem. You find yourself on a long, winding wooden walkway that elevates you just a few feet above the sea of red. As you look out toward the horizon, the crimson stalks of the seaweed sway in the coastal breeze like a million tiny flags, creating a rhythmic, hypnotic movement that stretches as far as the eye can see. The air tastes sharply of salt and the cold, bracing wind of the Bohai Sea. And the sound of the wind through the vast reed beds creates a low, rushing noise that mimics the sound of the ocean itself. There is a strange, alien peace to this place. A feeling of being in a world that operates on a completely different set of rules than the green forests and gray cities we are used to. The color is so intense and so pervasive that it begins to affect your sense of depth and perspective, making you feel as though you are walking across a liquid landscape. This red beach is a powerful reminder that beauty often thrives in the harshest and most hostile conditions, where everything else fails to take root. It is a celebration of resilience, showing that life can find a way to express itself in the most unlikely of places. It serves as a sanctuary for the mind, a place where the simplicity of the color red dominates the senses and allows for a rare kind of mental clarity. The meaning of Fanjingshan lies in its transformation, a reminder that there is a season for everything and that even the end of a life cycle can be breathtakingly beautiful. Yet, there are haunting truths hidden within this crimson sea. In the height of summer, this entire landscape is a vibrant, ordinary green, and the blood-red color only appears as the plant begins to die in the autumn, meaning the beauty you see is actually the signature of a massive, seasonal death. And despite its alien appearance, this beach is a vital, life-saving stop for over 236 species of migratory birds, making it a bloody sanctuary for the living as they traverse the globe. Zhangye Rice Terraces, the dragon's backbone. High in the mist-veiled mountains of the Guangxi province, the very earth itself has been sculpted into a series of geometric steps that look like the fingerprints of a giant. These are the Zhangye Rice Terraces, also known as the dragon's backbone, because the winding ridges resemble the scales of a sleeping dragon coiling around the peaks. This is not a natural formation, but a massive work of human engineering that was started over 800 years ago by the Zhuang and Yao people. Without the use of modern machinery or computers, these communities transformed entire mountain ranges into a highly sophisticated agricultural system, carving terraces that rise from an elevation of 300 meters to over 800 meters. It is a landscape of impossible complexity, where every single inch of the mountain has been utilized to sustain life, creating a rhythmic beauty that follows the natural contours of the land rather than fighting against them. To experience the dragon's backbone is to step into a living working piece of art. As you stand on a high vantage point, looking across the vast valleys, you see thousands of terraced pools that reflect the sky like a shattered mirror. In the spring, when the terraces are flooded with water, the mountains shimmer with a silver light. And in the autumn, they turn into a cascading sea of golden rice. The experience is deeply sensory. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth and growing grain. And the only sound is the constant melodic trickle of water moving from one level to the next. You find yourself walking along narrow, muddy paths that have been trodden by generations of farmers, feeling the immense weight of the labor that went into every single stone wall and every hand-carved ridge. It is a place of profound quiet, where the connection between the human hand and the soil is visible in every direction you look. The Zhangye terraces represent the ultimate fusion of human survival and natural beauty. It is a study in landscape engineering that predates our modern understanding of technology, proving that with enough time and collective will, humans can reshape the world in a way that is harmonious rather than destructive. It is a place that honors the patience and the endurance of those who came before us, showing that greatness can be built one small step at a time. The meaning of the dragon's backbone lies in its balance, a reminder that we are capable of creating wonders that sustain us both physically and spiritually. However, there is an overwhelming reality to this beauty that is easy to overlook. Each terrace might be only a few feet wide, but it was carved with the same level of architectural effort and precision as a grand cathedral, and the entire massive system still relies on a complex, gravity-fed irrigation network that has not changed a single bit since the 13th century, proving that some of the world's most advanced technology is actually hundreds of years old. We have moved through oceans of drifting clouds and traced the crumbling spine of an ancient world, witnessing a reality where the earth refuses to follow the rules of the mundane. These landscapes, sculpted by millions of years of patient force, remain etched in a silence that most will never hear. In the presence of such an impossible scale, we find a rare clarity, realizing that nature does not require our presence to be magnificent. It is a reminder that beyond the reach of our daily lives, the world remains wild, untamed, and infinitely mysterious. But the map of the unseen still holds many shadows, and the secrets of the planet do not end at the horizon. The journey continues, for there is always another reality waiting just out of sight.